Please welcome into the show America's accountant, Dan Geltrude from Nutley, New Jersey. Dan, thanks for being on the show. All right, a lot of numbers are going to be coming out this week. Inflation is going to be one of them. I've tried to do as much research as I can. It looks to come in a little bit. Inflation will still be running hot, but it's not as hot, right? And prices are going up, but not as fast. But some pundits think that this might be the low tick. We might see things kind of take off from there. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen here, Scott. But if we're going to go down the line of making some predictions, I'm going to tell you that the Fed is going to raise rates. Now, whether they should have taken a pause this past month, I'm not so sure. And I don't know really what was the true basis of doing that. Hey, well, let's wait and see what happens because maybe inflation will just go away. Well, I don't think so. I think what we're seeing here is exactly what you and I have talked about for over a year. Inflation is not just going to go away. Something has to happen. And what is that? Well, the Fed only has one tool, basically, and that's to raise rates. So if that's the horse you're going to ride, why would you get off in the middle of it? You know, if that's the path you're going to take, then continue to raise rates. And they're going to find that out, Scott, I believe.
I think you're right. And what I would say on top of that is this. You know, look, we've seen crude oil prices rise again today, right? We're starting to slowly but surely sneak up there. Housing prices seem to have bounced back a little bit, mainly because of no supply, but that doesn't matter. They're still getting a little bit more expensive. I think that a few of the pundits that I've been watching and following and reading, I think that they're right. I think that this is definitely not going away. Labor is very sticky. And to your point, why give inflation a chance to come back when you could have kept your foot on the gas and made sure it was gone, right? All you're doing, it's like a weed, right? If you stop spraying, it's going to come back. That pause is only going to give it another chance to really start to infest things again. And let's not kid ourselves. I can't stand it when people look like this, but even if we get a 3% CPI this week, right? That means things have only gone up by 3%, over this time last year, which was still very expensive. So when folks feel like things are coming in 15, 16, 20% more expensive, it's because they are.
That's exactly it. Look, the numbers can come out and they will, as they will, Scott. But how are people feeling? People are still feeling the pain. Yes, wages have gone up, but not as high as inflation. And let's keep in mind, as wages continue to go up, that's only adding to inflation. So everything is contributing into becoming more expensive. What I believe here is that recession is going to be unavoidable. I can't tell you when we'll exactly be in one, but I don't see another outcome based upon where the Fed is going to have to go. Jobs numbers, whether they come in hot or a little bit cooler, until there's really a significant drop, like how about to zero, I think the job market still remains hot, and that's going to continue to have inflation sticking around. Now, I will tell you this, and I'm gonna steal something here from Bill Simon, the former CEO of Walmart. And he said, a recession is much better than this inflation. Why? Because with a recession, and with that comes unemployment, yeah, it's not great, but you're impacting a smaller number of people than when you're talking about inflation, which impacts everyone. So inflation is public enemy number one.
And that's a great point. And that's why when we talk about public enemy number one, when the pundits or the folks on the news, and they'll sometimes do the graph about inflation since Biden's been in office, whatever, they say it's coming down. No, it's not. Prices are just rising at a slower pace, right? If it's up 3%, the CPI in this, that means things are 3% more expensive than they were last year. And like you said, until that number is a zero, that means they've stopped going up, but they're still as expensive as they were last year. We need to see a negative CPI number before we start to improve on prices, right?
Absolutely. And let me also say this. Keep in mind that if people didn't have such easy access to credit, and what I mean by that is credit cards, you would absolutely see this economy coming to a screeching halt much more quickly than where we're going now. People are still spending because they have this carefree attitude of, well, just put it on the credit card. Maybe Joe Biden will forgive all credit card debt. Well, you know, that's not coming, Scott. So eventually the piper needs to be paid.
All right, you're right. They redistribute all of our money and they redistribute debt now, too. All right, thanks for being on.